Hi everybody, I hope everyone's doing well. So this is hilarious, guys. They're now reporting that Russian and Ukraine tensions are affecting the UK petrol prices. So, anything for an excuse to rise the petrol prices, right? So let's read it. How do Russia-Ukraine tensions affect UK petrol prices? What it means as AA and RAC warns of further fuel rises. Petrol prices have also increased, spurred in recent days over concern if Russia invades Ukraine. There could be an impact on supply. Oh, right, okay. So, yeah. This is one of the reasons as well why they could, one of the reasons why this is all going on with Russia and Ukraine. One of the reasons for why this is one of their plans. So they can use it as an excuse to say there's a shortage of supplies of food, water, and fuel prices. It's all part of the plan. We know their climate change agenda. They had their climate change summit, didn't they, last year? UK petrol prices have jumped to record high of 148.2 per litre, rising above the previous record high of 147.72p set on November the 21st. The cost of diesel has also increased to a new record high of 151.57p per litre. The rise comes after AA survey of 15,000 of its members found in the blah 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 blah. Okay, yep. Okay, we're going to try and get an idea of if this makes any sense whatsoever. So, how have Russia-Ukraine tensions affected UK petrol prices? Prices have jumped as demand for fuel increases following the reopening of global economies. Petrol prices have also risen in recent days to tensions between Russia and Ukraine, with warnings that an invasion could impact supply. It's all one world network, isn't it, guys? They all work together. You can see that. The prices have been led by an increase in price of Brent crude oil. Prices of Brent crude this morning surged to a new 7-year high of almost $96, £71 per barrel. The US, UK and EU also threatened to impose severe sanctions against Russia if it invades Ukraine, which could also have catastrophic effect on the financial market. Like I said, this is part of the Great Reset. They want to crash the financial market so they can bring in their new currency, their new financial system, which won't be currency at all. It'll be all digital. It's all part of the plan. You can see now why this Russia-Ukraine tension is where it's leading and why they're doing it. Because if there is a war planned, they're gonna use that as an excuse to cut the supply chains down completely, food, everything, rise the prices, make people's lives hell. All part of the Great Reset, guys. I'm sure the World Economic Forum plays a big role in the war as well, and the Ukraine-Russia crisis, no doubt about it. But yeah, of course, we had with the climate change summit. So, they talk about climate change and they don't want people driving fuel. What a great way to get rid of fuel, eh? Say there's a fuel shortages and there's less demand now, so people won't be driving cars because there's a fuel shortage. Because we're told that Russia has invaded Ukraine and we're now not getting supplies from other countries because we're at war or whatever, yeah. So they'll use that as an excuse to say, we've run out of fuel. So then you won't be able to drive cars with fuel any longer. And then they'll use that as an excuse to bring in electric vehicles, electric cars. So everything's on the smart grid. Everything will be connected to the smart grid. And if you thought about it, the electric cars will eventually have they'll have a system built in that can it can tell the government where you are, so it's all tracked and trace. It has a tracked and trace system in there, so you're tracked everywhere you go in the car. So yeah, you can see where it's all going, guys. So when when they connect everything's electric and everything's connected to the grid, all they have to do is turn off the power supply, and then everyone's fucked. It's a great way, isn't it? Bring in the smart grid, turn off the power supply. Say it's a cyber attack. That could be a further future event after this war, but this could be part of the Great Reset. Bring in a war and say that because there's a war, we can't get supplies and goods around the world, all over the world. We can't transport them from one country to another, so there's going to be shortages of everything in all the countries, which is going to lead to a lot of people that are going to starve. A lot of people are going to get ill. People won't be able to travel anywhere. It's also a great reason to stop people from travelling in cars, which is what they want, of course, and it's part of their climate change agenda and their carbon net zero agenda, right? Zero carbon. So that's freedom of movement that's gone from just this Russia-Ukraine tensions, which they've already talked about. So yeah, guys, we've got another one here. Look, what can Russia do to the UK? How Putin could reply to Ukraine sanctions, from energy supply to cyber attacks. So we've got this cyber attack agenda playing out now. When we talked about Cyber Polygon last year, I did a couple of quite a few videos leading up to the actual not event, simulation of the cyber attack, which was played out in July last year, and they've done another one since, which was surprising Israel, of all places. So yeah, guys, quite weird, isn't it, how all this stuff is coming out, supply shortages and all sorts of stuff, right? It could, they could fuck the whole world up. We've also got one, Micron stock gains on supply chain fears. Why a Ukraine war could be bad for chips. So we've got one about chips now, again, talking about chip shortages. So it could be all sorts of stuff coming. I don't know what could happen to the natural gas supplies in Europe if Russia invades Ukraine. So they're using this. They're gonna use this event to bring in an agenda of saying that there's a shortage of all sorts of supplies, which is part of the Great Reset, obviously. So yeah, this is one of the paths that they're using. Maybe it's one of their plans. Probably they have multiple plans of choices of plans they could choose, and this was the one they chose. But yeah, I can see where it's all going now. So if Russia invades Ukraine, it's going to cut the supply chains off all over the world, and it's going to cause a massive amounts of problems, from food shortages to gas shortages to heating in your own homes to people to travelling. Freedom of travel, cars, because they're going to get rid of the fuel, and they'll say there's fuel shortages, or we haven't got any fuel, so you can't fill up your car and you can't go anywhere. And it could be the end of petrol and diesel cars. These people are fucking psychopaths. So they'll do this to get what they want, and then your freedom of movement's gone. And that's only the beginning, guys. Like I said earlier, the world's a stage, and it's all political theatre and everything, but that doesn't mean that it has a massive effect on us. All these bigger planned scripted events end up biting us in the arse later on. So we've got to be very careful, because like I said, we are still players in this, whether we like it or not, and we have to try and not play their game, but at the same time, it's we've got to be careful what they're bringing on us, and we need to be prepared. You know, like I said, get food in, get food supplies. Like I've been saying, and loads of other people have been saying as well, like get cans of food and store it. You know, every time you go shopping, get an extra couple of bits and just store it in places. Get food that has a good shelf life, like canned food, soup, pasta, stuff like that. Yeah. And I don't know. I've started stacking up loads of plastic water bottles now, just in case. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be enough, but you don't know, do you? But it's better to be prepared. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we're heading for a crazy year. I think this year's going to make the last 2 years look like a walk in the park in comparison. So I think this is the year we've been prepared for. I've been preparing you for. So yeah, we are at that point, I think. So it's how it's going to play out in the next couple of weeks. The world could be a totally different world. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. Cheers.